It was a show that from the beginning, everybody kind of clicked.
We really all gelled as a cast, I think.
We just sat down on the couch and said, okay, let's play.
It really became a family project, you know.
That was kind of the magical thing about being on the show.
I used to always say it was like a second family, and for the time we were there, it really was.
And I sat there with the kids sometimes, and they'd tell me things that happened at school or things that happened at home. You know, I mean, they're no different than your own kids. You go through the same thing at your real home.
People don't always get along as well as we did, and I think that showed on camera.
Well, how was everybody's dinner?
A very distinctive casserole, Mrs. Owens.
Yeah, it's tuna.
Really? Pretty good, huh? Oh, it's delicious. And whose idea was the crushed potato chips on top?
Mine.
I got to read with Bob Uecker. He was the anchor of the show at that point. It was a show that was, I don't know if it was developed for him, but it was his show.
I had already signed a deal when I went out there to do that. I had already had the deal. And I went out to LA and I auditioned with Ilene.
It was like just this instant, I get it. He got me, I got him, and as far as I was concerned, it was a lock. I said, no one's going to get this guy better than I do.
It was a long time ago.
There were definitely times working with Bob where it was difficult to keep a straight face. You could be dying, and he's cool. He knows he's killing you, and you're just wanting to laugh, and he won't.
Just amazingly hilarious and a sports guy, and one of the guys, you know.
There'd be some highlight reels or something on TV, and Bob would turn off the sound and do play-by-play for us. It was always amazing to watch him do that with no prep, just going off the TV footage.
Is this the Owens residence?
Uh-huh.
And I take it you're one of them?
Uh-huh.
Is there someone here who speaks English?
I knew Christopher Hewett from New York. He had actually directed me in a musical in New York. And when I found out that he was going to be Mr. Belvedere, it was, oh my goodness, what could possibly be better? Because we had a wonderful relationship before the TV show. And I had enormous respect for him, not only as an actor, but as a director and as a teacher.
Christopher was really good. He was a very, very good actor, very accomplished actor. And I mean, I've watched Christopher do other things, and he can be funny too. He's a funny guy too.
Hi, I'm George Owens, and this is Sports Round.
Hi, I'm Lynn Belvedere, and I'd like to start breakfast.
The dynamic between Christopher and Bob was worth the price of admission alone. These two guys who couldn't possibly have been more different.
He, of course, was the proper guy, and I was the sports writer.
Chris came from a very sort of regimented theatrical background, and Bob was much more kind of go with the flow and just want to do things and to get them done.
Hey, where's my high big boy kiss?
I haven't even been hired yet.
He just looked like he could, knock me on my rear end if he wanted to, that's the way it should be. If me and him were going to have a confrontation, he was going to win. Verbally and probably physically.
Yeah, today's the last day of the bet. And if I were you, I'd get on the horn now and start trying to dump some of your losers.
I have no losers. Besides, there's plenty of time.
The market closes in an hour.
Not in Tokyo.
To find themselves working so closely together was hilarious.
And Christopher and I, off camera, got along great.
They were nuts about each other and couldn't quite believe that they loved each other so much.
For the most part, they got along great. Bob was always ribbing Chris.
I used to do things with Chris. He loved ding-dongs. And I used to hide ding-dongs in the drawers in the kitchen.
Uecker liked to stir the pot a little bit.
Some of the stuff that was put into the script for a Monday morning read was not going to be in the show. It was never going to be in the show. But they did it because Chris used to get upset, and I used to kind of help out.
We'd have these table readings. That's where everybody kind of sits around a long table, and you go through the script. You read it for the first time.
We would get a new script on Friday nights, and Chris would inevitably call me on Saturday and ask me if I looked at the script. I said, no, not really. He said, well, look at it. And in his British accent, you know, his proper way of talking, well, look at it.
Bob would just be right across from Chris and like lean over and just kind of say, can you believe this stuff? I can't believe that they really want you to say this. This is insulting.
I said, well, you know what? I wouldn't read it. I wouldn't read that stuff. I said, as a matter of fact, I'd tell them about it too. And I said, you know what? Whatever you want to do, I'm with you.
Chris would go on, you know, like a monologue about why he was insulted by this line or why this thing didn't work and we should come up with something better, on and on and on. And then Bob would like amble up after this awkward silence and say to the writers, I don't know what he's talking about. I think this stuff's hilarious. And then there'd be like this moment between Bob and Chris where Chris would just look at him and, you know, knowing that he got punked before that was even an expression, and they just would crack each other up, you know, from that point on. So it just deflated the whole thing.
He was a good friend, though. Christopher was, he was really a good friend. I miss him. I miss seeing him. I used to see him when we'd go out to L.A. He'd come to the ballpark once in a while. I'd get him out there. He always wanted to do play-by-play, which I thought would have probably cost me my job. You know, do you want me on the air? I said, no airtime. You want to come out and sit with me. But he was a good friend.
You'd have figured it out for yourself.
I doubt it. I mean, I go around banging my head against the wall trying to figure out what's going on in my own kid's mind. I can't do a thing. But every time I turn my back for a minute, you're up here, butting in, solving the problem for me.
George, what exactly are you trying to say?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
As that whole show evolved, I mean, we became friends. I mean, really friends, where you go out and eat together and you do things together. And that was what the show really was. I mean, the rehearsal time during the week was a lot of screwing around, a lot of messing around, a lot of laughing. And when you worked, but we laughed a lot too. We had a lot of good times, really good times.
Hey, champ! Guess what I brought you from the Football Hall of Fame?
Football?
Maybe.
Belvedere was my second job, actually.
Brice Beckham was ridiculously talented for such a kid. Sometimes I didn't appreciate how very, very good he was because he was so very natural.
Brice knew everybody's lines. When Christopher or anybody else would mess up, he would stop. He'd say, that's not what you're supposed to say. You're supposed to say this. And Christopher used to get a little peeved once in a while at him. But it was all fun.
Well, the first time I met Brice, he came up to me and said, you know, I've always wanted a brother. And, you know, I'm so happy because now you're my brother. That's it. I mean, from that point on, we were brothers.
Rob, of course, was a heartthrob, so to speak.
He was a real trained kind of guy.
When we first all got the job together, he picked up me and Tracy to go to the amusement park for a day so that we could all sort of get to know each other and have some fun together and really kind of feel like siblings.
Hey, watch it, will you? This thing's expensive.
Come on, Kevin, do me.
All right. Okay.
Stop that. That is so gross.
Hey, Mom! Belvy! What are you guys doing up so late? You want a party?
I think we all knew that we were there primarily to get laughs, you know, that it was a comedy. But at the same time, we were a family comedy, and I think we took that element of it very seriously.
Hi, I'm just getting some cookies. Oh! You eat too many?
She's having her baby.
The very special episodes are just that's a part of the medium. I think everyone understands that. Everyone knows that sometimes you got to get serious to teach a little or preach a little.
Those very special episodes were issues that society was dealing with at the time, that our creators especially felt just could not be ignored.
Like the AIDS episode, I think, was really well ahead of its time. I think we were one of the first, if not the first, to really deal with that, particularly in a sitcom.
You got caught with this stuff called AIDS.
AIDS?
Oh my God.
That was a controversial show to do at that time for the kids. They brought somebody in to talk to all of us, you know, about the show and why we were doing the show. And the whole scene with AIDS, and which at that time, as I said, was, pretty spicy show to do. But it went off really well.
But I don't want to catch what he's got.
You're not going to.
That's not what my friends told me at school. I heard you can get it just by playing tag or swinging on the same swings.
Come on, Wes, you're talking dumb. I mean, you don't catch that stuff from just fooling around.
Every minute of the day, even when you're having a horrible problem, is not consumed by the horrible problem. That you do have moments in your day that are lighthearted. And if you lose your sense of humor when you're dealing with a horrible problem, then you're really in trouble.
Wesley, what I think your father's trying to say is, you don't catch AIDS by simply being around someone who has it. It requires a more intimate association.
You mean like dancing?
There was a lot of subtext in there that I didn't get until until I grew up.
A subversive sense of humor sometimes. What happened to you? I woke up and you were gone.
What's the difference?
Hey, look, it's okay. It happens.
Not when this boy's at bat.
Well, let's just say only one.
We definitely poke fun and have fun, but we'll slip in some things for the adult audience as well.
There was always something just a little bit twisted.
The reason things always bother you is because you're a brooder, and the reason nothing hardly ever bothers me is because I'm a sociopath.
You know, it would be fun to write some new songs.
You know what else is fun? Watching Mr. Belvedere without people talking so loud.
So I was thinking we could...
Streaks on the china! Never met her before! Who cared?
One of the most validating moments of my life was watching Family Guy and having Stewie sing the Mr. Belvedere theme song. I just jumped out of my chair and said, "We've made it."
Life is more than mere survival, and we just might live the good life yet.
I think the show has a little bit of that cult aspect, but that's the kind of thing that always carries it to that sort of that extra level in the public lexicon.
I mean, the other day, and our show's been off the air for a long time. One of the checkers at the supermarket said, "I've been looking at you for years at Ralph's at the store." She said, "You were the mom of Mr. Belvedere, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "I used to watch you every day after school."
I was up at the golf course the other day, and a lady came up to me. She said, "I know you. I know who you are, and I'm trying to think of the show you did." And I didn't even tell her. I said, "Yeah, I was on a show." She said, "Now I know it's Mr. Belvedere. Is that you?" I said, "Yeah." But I mean, that happens a lot.
And then I'd run into like a truck driver, all completely tattooed and stuff, and they'd come up and say, "This is my favorite show." And they were, you can tell when someone's being genuine.
It's kind of gratifying when strangers, kids, young adults are unfailingly nice and sweet and wonderful when they meet me and say, "No, you don't understand." Seeing that family on TV, as crazy as that family was, made me realize that there are some families that get along, and that's what I wanted when I grew up.
That's really a heartwarming, great thing for me as somebody who was a small part of it, to be able to see that, throughout the years that really did mean something to somebody.
It's really nice when you become a part of pop culture. That never leaves you. That stuff never leaves you. It's going to go on forever and ever and ever.
So you want to stay or what?
Wesley?
Yeah, I'll take it upstairs.
Well, breakfast must be ready by now. Mr. Belvedere, would you care to join us?
Thank you.
You sure you made enough Scotch eggs?
Oddly enough, I made one extra.
I really had a good time doing that show.
It truly was a family. I know that sounds terrible and cliche and everything else, but it's really true.
We still see each other from time to time.
Time and again, we check in and make sure everyone's doing all right.
I think they all know that Bob and I would drop anything in an instant.
I don't care when it is. Yeah, that would be more than true.
I'm just so sorry we lost Chris, because he loved the fact that he had this surrogate family, and we all kind of felt that, with each other.
I think that's a testament to how well we got along originally.
That was as close as you can be, you know, to a real family, other than your real family.
When you drop-kicked your jacket as you came through the door, no one glared, but sometimes things get turned around and no one spared. All hands look out below. There's a change in the status quo.